I'm here with Mr. Scott Snyder. He write a Batman series. Who is your favorite superhero from DC? I know answer.
I know. Well, Batman has always been my favorite since I was a kid, just because there was always sort of a Batman for every age that I was. When I was little, it was, Batman, Adam West, and all of that stuff. And then as I got older, there was the animated series and Frank Miller. And so there was always sort of a Batman that fit where I was in my life.
So when you came into DC, you immediately wanted Batman?
Well, that was always my dream, but I didn't think I'd get it. I came into DC and I was doing Vertigo. I was doing American Vampire, and they offered me a couple things that I didn't think were right, like Firestorm and a couple other characters, and I thought I would just stay at Vertigo. And then what happened was the backups on Detective Comics opened up because the person that was writing them couldn't do them, and so I was going to take the backups, and then Paul Dini, who was writing the features, left to do animation full time, and so they needed somebody to do detectives. So they just asked me, so I lucked out. It was always I got my kind of dream job immediately, which was a very lucky thing.
What's your favorite Batman movie?
Probably The Dark Knight. I love that one with Heath Ledger and Christian Bale, but honestly, Mask of the Phantasm, the animated one, was really, really important to me. I love that movie. And also Return of the Joker, the Batman Beyond movie. It had a big influence on me. I love that one too. So those three, I'd probably go Dark Knight, Mask of the Phantasm, Return of the Joker are probably my three favorites.
Okay, I have a question about your Joker. Because when you came with a Joker without face, it was kind of different, let's say new Joker.
Yeah.
Where did you get the influence?
Well, the face stuff came from me and Tony Daniel. Basically, when we started the New 52, they wanted us to take Joker away for a while. And he had an idea about maybe lobotomizing him or doing something to his brain. And I was sort of pushing him that I thought doing something like that would be too much for a first issue. And instead to do something that was scary and that would allow the Joker to come back in a new way. So I encouraged him to do the face, which some fans weren't hugely happy with at first, but I had a feeling that we'd be able to use in a good way, and so I knew the story, the beginnings of the story for Death of the Family, which was about him coming back and saying, beneath this face is only more Joker all the way to the bone, and beneath your face, Batman, is just the Bat King. If you pretend to be human, you're going to fall down. You're not Bruce Wayne, you're Batman. And so I knew I could use it and make it work, at least in a small way. So I suggested we do that, and then Tony went for it, and it went well.
So it's basically why Joker wanted to kill Batman in Endgame, because he realized he's more human?
Yeah. Basically, in Death of the Family, which is kind of the comedy, Joker says, you're not really human, you and I are bigger than all these people around us, we're these mythical figures, and you need to get rid of this stupid family you have to remember that you're not a father, you're not normal, you're bigger than that. It used to just be the two of us, and now it's this whole stupid family. And then when Batman rejects that in Death of the Family, Joker says, well, guess what, I'm bigger than that, you're not, and I'm going to show you how I've been around for hundreds of years, and I'm much bigger than you ever will be. And so that's kind of the way that was set up, and that's meant to be the tragedy, where if the comedy sort of is about them supposedly getting together, and forming a union, then the tragedy of Endgame is them saying, we're breaking apart and I'll always hate you now from now on.
We was talking about the Dark Knight. In your comics, I see inspiration of the Nolan trilogy.
Oh yeah, I love the Nolan trilogy. I love the original Return of the Dark Knight, Dark Knight Returns. The Frank Miller, and so there's definitely a lot of that in the DNA of our stuff too. Yeah.
And what's your favorite Batman comic from the other writer?
Probably Dark Knight Returns is probably my favorite, but I also really loved, I guess if I had to name my tops, it would be Dark Knight Returns and Year One, kind of together. And then probably either Grant Morrison's run. I love Grant Morrison's run on Batman. I really love Paul Dini's, I love the animated stuff, but I also love his work on Streets of Gotham and and Heart of Hush, all the kind of stuff he did. I'm a huge fan of his. The seminal Batman stories, I think, for me, Arkham Asylum, yeah, Grant's run. I love Hush is a lot of fun. There's so many, honestly. It's really hard. I mean, Batman Year 100, I think, is really underrated. The Paul Pope, I really love that. Son of the Demon, Venom. I don't know. There's so many, but I'd say my top one is Dark Knight Returns. So that one was the one that I was 10 years old when that came out, and it really blew my mind.
If I look at your Batman, I see more the interpretation of the character. Like, I'm the goddamn Batman. I can do anything. More like detective. Like, how did you came up with this approach? Did you try to differentiate from Grant Morrison? Or?
Yeah. Well, I felt more like when I started, Grant was doing this big, over the top, almost cosmic stuff where Bruce was lost in time and coming back from the Omega Sanction and all that stuff. So I felt like there was a real opening for me to do grounded detective Batman. That's why I did Black Mirror, and then Court of Owls were meant to be very detective-based stories. Then when Grant left, I started to be like, well, I did the detective stuff. Let me branch out in my own way and make him bigger and bigger in my way. I think all writers tend to do that. You own a character like the way Jason Aaron is on Thor for a long time, and then eventually tries more and more, I think, daring stuff. Making Jane, Thor, all of that. After a while. Yeah, so you raise the stakes and try different things. We made Gordon Batman. So it's just a natural progression, to keep yourself challenged, keep yourself exciting to you as a writer, to keep fans interested, all of it. So, it was kind of a progression from like very grounded street stuff to metal, which is now like the craziest thing I've ever done in my life. So.
And how did you came up with the Court of Owls?
Oh, the Court of Owls?
Yeah.
Well, it really was. I grew up in New York City, and so it was that idea that you kind of like, if you live in Vienna. You know Vienna now, like you know the neighborhoods, and you know your neighborhood. You know the people there. You're familiar with kind of which neighborhoods are friendly, which are not. All of that. But 10 years ago it was different. 20 years ago it was different. 100 years ago it was different. Similarly, 10 years from now it'll be different. So the idea is that Bruce Wayne knows Gotham at this particular moment in time, but he doesn't know it before or after this moment. And so if I could kind of weaponize that and make it a villain against him, history itself almost, then there'd be a way of making a really scary story for him. So that's kind of where the Court of Owls came from.
And what's your favorite Marvel superhero?
My favorite Marvel superhero? Well, I think for my whole life, my favorite has really been Captain America. I've always loved him. I've always wanted to write him. But my other favorites really are Wolverine and Ghost Rider. I think those three are my favorites. I love Spider-Man, but I'm not sure I'm really cut out for Spider-Man. He's a little bit, I guess, like happy for me sometimes. Like, I mean, I like crazy, happy, fun, nutty stuff, but he's a little young and like buoyant, bouncy for me. So. I love him. I'd love to try Spider-Man at some point, but my tops would probably be Captain America, Wolverine, and Ghost Rider.
Now let's look a bit different. Like, what are your favorite Spider-Man stories?
Wow. Well, I mean, I really love Dan Slott's run. I mean, I'm a huge fan of his from Big Time when he started, all the way through, even from the Gauntlet, then to Big Time, then to Superior, all of it. Like, I love this stuff, and I think his is really the seminal run of our time. I really enjoyed JMS and Eric Larson, all that stuff on it, but I think, one of my favorite, the story that really got me when I was about 11 or 12 was Kraven's Last Hunt. I loved all of the Web of Spider-Man stuff when he was in the black costume, so that really caught me, I guess, with Vermin and all of that, where Spider-Man is buried in the ground for, a long time, and that's, I don't know, that's kind of it, I guess. Spidey, I love Bendis' Ultimate Spider-Man, that whole, it was great. I mean, the whole reimagining. So there's a lot. I mean, I'm pretty familiar. Spider-Man is one of the areas where I've read most of the stuff that, Batman, I think the stuff I've read the most of is probably Batman above all, then probably I'd say Superman and Justice League kind of stuff, but Spider-Man's up there, Wolverine's up there, Daredevil's up there, You know, Captain America is definitely up there. So, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot I would do.
Okay, thank you very much for the interview.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much. That was
Thank you very
great.
much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.